What in the heck is title and escrow? Does anybody even know what that means? Today, we're going to try and figure that out. But before we do, let's hear what people on the street have to say.
What is escrow?
Escrow is after you have put in an offer on a house and they've accepted your offer, and it's, I think, the legal process of getting the mortgage finalized through the bank and having that accepted by the seller. Or am I wrong?
I don't know what escrow is. I think it's like the last part of your home buying experience.
Escrow this when you buy a house or sell a house, and there's like an escrow you should pay.
I think it's like when a house is like, is it pending escrow? I think it's like a third party, like you give them the money and then they're the ones who give the money to the people you're buying the house from, something like that, I think. I'm not 100% sure.
Is that kind of like when you're entering a contract and you've like accepted a down payment and then your lawyers hang on to that down payment and like no one actually has the money yet because your contract hasn't closed, but like the money's there. So like the lawyers are holding on to it.
I used to know, but I can't remember now. I know it has something to do with a lot of money being held somewhere, but I don't remember where exactly, and I don't remember in what stage of ownership.
Oh, yeah. So that's where the money goes when you're waiting for the sale to go through. Is that right?
I know that there can be, a fast-tracked escrow, like 30 days or 60 days. I know some people take a lot longer, but I think it's the process of getting your mortgage finalized.
What we have learned is nobody knows what escrow is, but everybody pays for it. So
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Happy Hour with the Acevedo team. I am Nathan Gans, and this is Amy Acevedo. Today we have with us Cord Speelman from Fidelity and Chicago Title, and we are so excited to figure out what in the heck is title and escrow.
Right. Well, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Amy.
Oh, cheers. All right.
And because this is happy hour with the Acevedo team, cheers to Cord.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.
And cheers to solving the mystery
Yes.
of title and escrow. What are they?
What are they? That's a great question, and we'll definitely get into that. A lot of people ask, what is title and escrow? So really, it is a process, and a lot of these videos were actually pretty close, but it is that process in which the contract or PSA is agreed upon, and then that's when they send it over to our escrow officers. And so we will pull a title report from our title department, and then from there, they're going to see if there's any liens or major issues within the property for it to be, that could possibly hold it up, the transaction.
So like escrow is the neutral third party
Correct.
that holds everything.
Yep.
So it's two separate things that your company does
Correct.
together.
Yep. So we really have two teams, and they really work hand in hand together within the whole entire process. And it's actually pretty interesting because we have someone who's fully doing a ton of research on the property to make sure that we can get this property free and clear. And that's where escrow comes in. They're going to make sure they get everything cleared out for you guys. And that way, when that new buyer comes in and that transaction closes, they have a property that is totally free and clear.
Yeah, and I before I went into real estate, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about this before. Why is it Chicago Title and Fidelity National Title?
Yeah, so in the downturn, we actually became a one organization. They consolidated our two brands since we are sister companies, which is one of only 3 operations nationwide. So it's a really unique operation here. So we have to really recreate the wheel, which is kind of a fun experience for us.
Yeah. So not only do you offer escrow and title, which are two separate things, you have two companies that are kind of together, a bit separate.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, in the state of Washington, they always kind of have title and escrow together. Now, in other states, they will have just a title company and an escrow company, but that's how we run it up here.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have like a horror story or like a really fun story?
There's always a horror story.
There's always horror stories.
There's always a horror
exactly.
story.
Yeah. No, so one that was definitely very interesting that I've kind of learned over time is we were closing a transaction, and we get to 2 days before everything is supposed to fund and record, and then we found out that a person was selling their deceased parent's home, which is pretty common. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but when it came down to actually closing, we found out that they actually had 5 brothers and sisters.
Oh.
But the 5 brothers and sisters are in 4 different states. So the escrow officer had to work to get mobile notaries in those different states, only to find out then one of those siblings were actually deceased. So then they had to track down the deceased siblings' kids to have them sign off on the property for the sale. So it's stuff like that we run into, where escrow, a lot of times you don't see that kind of stuff behind the scenes, but escrow's out there working so hard to make sure that transaction is closed as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much about Chicago Title. Oh my goodness, we've had some doozies. So basically, you've got the escrow person solving everything, but you get this title report that will have a list of like the mortgage, but it might have, you know, some crazy. What's like the craziest lien that you've ever
there's
seen?
all kinds of liens that you can have on there, but a good example of this is a mechanic's lien. And so a lot of times, you know, if you have a roofer come out and they put a dumpster on your property, they can actually put a lien on that property, a mechanic's lien, before the work is actually even rendered. And so they're saying that we're starting this work and that we want to get paid throughout the process. So there's all kinds of different liens. It could be, there's just so many different ones.
Yeah, I've seen child support.
Yes. Yes.
Collections. It's and we've seen them come up at the final hour. And I appreciate so much about you guys. You're working madly behind the scenes too.
Yes,
So
definitely
they're
huge
solving
shout
problems.
out to our escrow teams and our title teams, because they do so much work on the back end to hopefully make this process as smooth as possible for all of your clients.
So I'm hoping that we cleared this up. So we were laughing before this because Nathan's like, I still
I have
don't
no
know what
idea.
it is.
No one really
I
knows.
still think I have about a 4 out of 10 understanding.
So how would you describe it? What did you learn today?
What I learned today is that title and escrow are different.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. Title is basically what makes sure that the house is legally purchased, and escrow is the transfer of funds.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, and then
There you go, 4 out of 10.
and we
He's like
are,
4.5.
and we have to remain a neutral third party at all times,
Got
right?
it.
And so a lot of times people come in, well, like, what would you advise us to do in this situation? And we cannot give any legal advice when it comes to that. Now, it is pretty interesting. Our escrow officers are LPOs, and that means they have taken a third of the bar exam, which is something that is different than other states. It is a requirement for them to legally close a transaction under their name. So it's just, you know, we can only do so much when it comes to legal advice that we give.
So how do people get good advice then about this stuff?
We would just say, you know, reach out to your attorney or, you know, your proper legal authorities to get that information, especially if it comes to like deaths or probates or something like that. Like that's where it really goes to court, and that's where we're just like, listen, we just understand what is given to us in a paper within that PSA or with what the courts say, and then we have to distribute funds accordingly or collect funds accordingly.
So you said PSA twice now. So for the people like myself who have no idea what the heck you're talking about, what does a PSA mean?
A PSA is a purchase and sale agreement. So that is when a buyer will put in an offer and both parties come to agreement on the terms in which buying and selling the house is taking place.
Yeah. They're like, we good, let's do it.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I feel like we need a glossary. And then probate.
There's so many
So many
acronyms, all these
acronyms,
different
yeah.
things. It's like,
People don't
I feel
know
like
what
I'm joining a
probate-
government agency or something.
It is, but you've broken it down really well. So yeah, I've definitely learned like the escrow officer is the one that's preparing all of the documents, you know, arranging for the transfer of funds, neutral third party. The title report is where we're checking to see if anyone has an interest. Like you don't want to close on the house and the seller's third cousin Joe thinks that he has an interest.
It's always
and
a Joe.
then, Yeah, it's always Joe or John, or well, it should be like Joe Bob.
Joe Bob.
But they also, that's part of what title does for you. They provide title insurance. And so if that was something that they guaranteed, they go to bat for the new owner. So
Correct.
That's
kind
awesome.
of 3 different services. They make sure you have clear title, but they'll defend you if you don't within reason.
Yeah.
And then also provide that neutral third party.
Yeah, and I think one thing that people get confused a lot is they hear the word insurance. And so a lot of times they're like, oh, well, that insurance is going to protect me from any future instances, where it's kind of backwards. We actually insure the past. So that's why we are doing a search on the past of the property to ensure that there are no liens from when, you know, the roofers decide to put that mechanic's lien on. We want to make sure that they got all paid and free and clear. That way, when you acquire this new property, that debt is not assigned to you.
Yeah, that's great.
So
question for you. So you have 2 companies, but you're also doing title and escrow. How does that give you an advantage in the marketplace?
So I wouldn't say it unfortunately doesn't give us an advantage, because most companies do it that way in our organization. So let's just say Skamania County, for example. We will ask for a title report from Skamania County, but then we will close escrow here. So that is one example as to where using a title plant in a different county from a different company will be necessary. So.
It sounds like we need to have another episode about probate,
Yes.
and we will not make you suffer
Oh,
through
geez,
it.
that would not be my expertise by any means.
Oh, there's nothing better than court.
I have learned so much about probate over the years. I waited on a personal condo for it was over a year for them
Yeah,
to
it
get
can
clear
take a
title.
long time.
Yeah,
Wow.
we closed it and it happened, but that's not what you're here for. The
No,
title
no,
company
no.
definitely helped with that, but we also had to get attorneys involved.
Yes.
So anything else that you think we should know about title and or escrow?
Yeah, I think one thing is just never be afraid to ask us questions at the end of the day, because it's confusing. It's a stressful time. I mean, it's one of the biggest investments that someone's going to ever make within their life. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't know if I should call. Feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call. We're happy to help, and kind of direct you in the way that you need to go within the transaction. So.
Okay. And yesterday, Cord sent me the funniest video. It's a Portlandia video, and they were like
Oh, great.
on the phone with their realtor, and she's like, "Okay, congrats, we're in escrow," and they hang up, and they're like, "What is escrow?"
What is escrow?
And they watched this video and just got more confused.
Yeah.
So you were way better than that video. You were amazing.
Yes.
So thank you so much
You're
for being
welcome.
here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Of course. And then for everyone watching, our 5 YouTube followers, and thank you so much for watching. We are starting a talk show. We will have a new episode every month, so please stay tuned for the latest and greatest hot topics. And if you have things that you want to hear about from us, please reach out because we would love to answer those questions for you. So
Thank you.
cheers, you guys.
Cheers.
To title and escrow
Title
not
and
being
escrow.
confusing.
There we
Yay.
go. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please stay tuned for a current market update. And remember, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, the Acevedo team is the best.